हरे कृष्णा। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So, we welcome all the devotees, viewers, for this ongoing series of um, Dham Parikrama, where we are going to holy places by the means of hearing and meditation. Today, indeed, we are going to a very, very far off place, uh, almost towards the east, little toward the north. We call it northeast, as you see in the slide, northeast states. Like we have this Meghalaya, Assam, Manipur, Nagaland, Mizoram, Tripura, and Arunachal Pradesh. So these are different states in that northeast region of states. It's a very far of considered to place where we are all staying in the west coast of India. So someone may say that what is so special about these places? How it is holy place? Well, there are beautiful pastimes of Lord Krishna, beautiful pastimes of Lord Shiva, beautiful pastimes of Lord Parshuram, and there are so many great devotees who have been to these places, like five Pandavas went there, and beautiful histories of great kings who were devotees of this or the past era in these particular states, which we just showed to you all now. So you can see that these places have mentions in the great Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. It is also mentioned in Harivamsha Puran and also mentioned in Kalika Puran. So what are the different places we will be visiting? Today we will be visiting Assam first. Then we will be going to the next place will be Arunachal, then Manipur, and in this way we'll cover other places as well. Some places we'll cover in detail because a lot of pastimes. Some places are only one or few pastimes, so we'll cover fast. So this way we begin. So we first start with our thing in Assam. So in Assam, there are many places to visit. There is the Brahmaputra River, which is part of the very heart of Assam, which cuts through the whole Assam, centrally dissects the Assam state. We will hear about Brahmaputra River. We also will go to the famous capital city of Assam, Guwahati. We'll visit Kamarup. Kamarup is actually one of the holy names or olden Vedic names of Guwahati city. Kamarup, Kamakhya, the modern name is Guwahati. Then we will also visit another city in Assam called as Tejpur or Sonitpur, which is also mentioned in Bhagavatam. And then we also go to a very nice place called as Majoli. So let's begin our journey with Guwahati. So it is mentioned Guwahati is considered today as the gateway of Northeast. That means when you go towards Northeast by road or rail, you have to go first via Guwahati and then you go to many places, either Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh. You have to go via Guwahati. It's like a small pipe which goes and enters like that. Because India and Assam is somehow there between there is Bangladesh country, so therefore we have to go all the way like this and enter the whole region of Northeast. So Guwahati therefore is called as gateway of Northeast. The Vedic names, as I mentioned, Kamarupa, Kamakhya, and also one more name, Prag Jyotishpur. Now you must have remembered some name, Prag Jyotishpur. Yes, this is the place of the demon Narakasur, right? So we'll discuss that later. Now, the most prominent story of this place is the story of Kamakhya Devi, Kamakhya temple. Now we will first speak about beautiful story of Kamakhya, and then we will show you beautiful pictures of this temple. Very nice, beautiful, and holy place, Kamakhya. So, what is the story of Kamakhya Devi? It is mentioned, like all of you are already been aware, that when Sati, the wife of Lord Shiva, she was upset at the way his father Daksha ill-treated his own husband, her husband Shiva. That time Sati left her body, and then Lord Shiva came and he ransacked the whole arena of Yagya, killed everyone because of his anger, and then he beheaded Daksha Prajapati. And in due course of time, Daksha Prajapati did get a head of a goat. That's the story in Bhagavatam fourth canto. So now the point of discussion here is when Sati left her body, the Puranas mentioned that Lord Shiva picked up the body. He was in madness for having lost his dear wife Sati. Lord Shiva had a lot of love for his wife Sati, and in that madness, he was actually uh, uh, had lifted the body of Sati, and he was going here and there in madness. So that time, all the great demigods they understood that this is not the right way of conduct. So they asked Lord Vishnu to help, and Lord Vishnu said that at this time, an auspicious thing will happen. That Lord Sati Devi has left her body, but she will be emblemed in many places. So with the Sudarshan Chakra, Lord Narayan, he cut all the body parts of Sati. So Sati's body parts fell in different places all over India, and wherever that body part fell, that became a Shakti Peetha. So during our many classes in the Holy Dham, we heard about many Shakti Peeths. So in Guwahati, the place where Sati Devi's private parts fell, that is called as Kamakhya. So this is one of the very, very important Shakti Peeth. It is said that it is one of very Jagrut or very established and very lively Shakti Peeth for many, many thousands of years. Uh, it is uh, it is mentioned that up until Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, even some part of Kali Yuga, people would worship and they would find themselves uh, experiencing the darshan of Sati Devi here. So this is the Jagrut place of Sati Devi, Kamakhya. Since Sati is also there, so Lord Shiva is also present because his wife is here. So Lord Shiva's temples are also there, Umananda temple, and so many different places are there. Shukreshwar temple established by Shukracharya, like that. So Kamakhya temple is situated on a hill. Most of the Assam, initial part of Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and all are hilly areas. The later part of Assam is all plains, where Brahmaputra flows, very wide range, very wide surface area he covers. So we'll see that also later in our slides, pictures of Brahmaputra. So now there are many hills in Guwahati, and on those hills, the whole city is situated between Brahmaputra runs through the whole city, and on both sides there are hills. So Kamakhya is one of the hills. His temple is on one of the hills. There is also a hill called as Narkasur Hill, where Narkasur had his palace. There's also Lord Shiva's hill, Shukreshwar hill, Dirgeshwari, and all those different hills are there. So we'll discuss this as we see our photos now. So, so this is the entrance of Kamakhya temple. We go through beautiful photos of Kamakhya temple here. These are different pictures of Kamakhya Devi. This is holy deity of Kamakhya here also. Yes. So there is also one more story why this place is called as Kama Rupa. Now we know the story from Srimad Bhagavatam that how Lord Shiva was doing tapasya after Sati she left her body. But the same Sati then rebirth as Parvati. And now Parvati Devi was doing tapasya to get Shiva as husband. Lord Shiva was doing tapasya. Meanwhile, the demons were creating havoc and they were ruining the lives of the demigods, devatas. So all devatas they assembled and they came to know that the only way we can defeat the demons is we get a good commander in chief. And the good commander in chief can only come when Lord Shiva unites and produces a child. So they went to Parvati Devi and said, "Your husband, Lord Shiva, is doing meditation. Kindly go and wake him up." So Parvati Devi went and tried to uh, uh, wake up or arouse the inner pleasures of Lord Shiva so he can combine with her. Lord Shiva was very strong. So that time demigods they decided that we should also do some external factors by which we can arouse the inner desires of Lord Shiva. So Kamadev, Cupid, Madan, he was sent with his whole team to go and throw arrows of love on Lord Shiva. So it is mentioned that Lord Shiva was in full deep meditation, and Madan Kamadev, when he threw arrows, Lord Shiva was disturbed by that throwing of arrows. He said, "Who is that person who is disturbing my meditation?" And he opened his eyes and he saw Madan is standing in front of him. So he became very angry and he decided to burn to ashes Kamadev. So from his eye, a fire came out, third eye. It is mentioned that Kamaru became disturbed because now he was going to lose his life. So he ran here and there. And while running here and there, he came to this place, which is now known as Guwahati. And he came at this place to one hilltop. And when he stood there, that was a place where he was burned to ash by Lord Shiva's fire. And because of the whole burnt to ashes, it is mentioned that even the hill also was burnt to ashes. The hill was later called as Bhasmachal. The hill is now in middle of Brahmaputra river. It became a small river island. We'll go to that place also. It became a small river island. It came in the middle of the river. How it came, that we'll discuss later. That island became Bhasmachal or Umananda Island. So we'll discuss that also as we go ahead. So this is the beautiful view of the region of Guwahati and Brahmaputra from the hills of Kamakhya. This is also beautiful Kamakhya hill in Guwahati. This is again beautiful hill view. This is a beautiful Brahmaputra river which is flowing through Guwahati. The word Guwahati today in logical terms means heart means market, and Goa means betel nuts. So during the British time, this became a very well-known market for betel nuts. Betel nuts. So then it became the name Guwahati came from Kamarupa. So this is Brahmaputra river which is flowing through Guwahati. Again, beautiful view of Brahmaputra from the hills of Kamakhya. Again, a close view. So it is mentioned that there are many rocks which are markings in the same hills of this place, which denotes that these are the original rocks which are there since the time of Dwapar Yuga when Narkasur had his kingdom here. And before that, when the Kamakhya Devi's establishment took place. Even now, also, even though in between there was a lot of upheaval where the whole kingdom was destroyed and water took over, there was like a pralaya destruction, but still some carvings or stone marks are still there to show that this place is a very ancient old place. So you can find these beautiful marking places here near Brahmaputra River on the hills. These are very old stones. Actually, they're lying there for long, long time. Yeah. So now we will discuss on the one of the very sensational topic now. The next topic is Narkasur. Now we have heard about Narkasur, right? We celebrate this Diwali, and every Diwali, the first day or second day is Naraka Chaturdashi, right? So the word Narkasur has come from this place because there was a demon here who stayed here, whom Lord Krishna came and killed. That demon's name was Narkasur. In fact, Narkasur became Narkasur before later, but his initial name was Bhaumasur. Bhaumasur actually was the son of Lord Varadev and Bhumi Devi. Varadev, when he picked up Bhumi from Garbhodaka ocean, he that time while picking Bhumi Devi and then he killed Hiranyaksha, it is mentioned. Varadev impregnated Bhumi Devi, and by the impregnation, Bhauma was born. Bhumi's son became Bhauma. So Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan then handed over Bhumi and his son to the king of Mithila that time. And under that king, it is mentioned Bhumi Devi stayed there and slowly, slowly Bhauma became a young man. So when Bhauma became a young man, Bhumi Devi requested Lord Narayan to give him some place so that he can rule. So Lord Narayan brought Bhauma here to this place. Previously, this place was ruled by another demon who was creating havoc here. So empowered Bhauma came here and killed this demon, and then Lord said, "You can now rule this particular area of this place, and you can reign nicely." So it became this way by the arrangement of Lord Narayan. Bhauma, the son of Narayan, got a chance to come here and stay here, and he became the king of this place. Lord Narayan had told him that this place actually is the place of Devi Kamakhya, Shakti Pitha. Therefore, you should worship Kamakhya and get all the powers from Kamakhya and become very powerful as a king. So it is mentioned that indeed It is said that he became very powerful because he was worshipping very, very seriously Kamakhya. As I mentioned, she was a very Jagrut Devi that time. So she get lot of powers, and Narkasur with his penance and puja, he acquired so much power that now he became a very powerful king, not only in that area, but even well known among in the Earth planet and also in other planets. So this was the time it is mentioned that he became little puffed up because of his power. And above all, just close to his kingdom, just as we go ahead, the next place which we are visiting is Tejpur or Sonitpur, was staying Bhanasur, who was a very big demon. He was a son of Virochan. So it is mentioned that in the as a, in the dynasty of Prahlad Maharaj. So he was already a great demon. So somehow the Bhauma came in touch with Bhanasur, and he took his association. And because of that association and so much of power and pride, Bhaumasur's activity became demoniac. So we can see that how Bhuma was actually born from the um, union of Lord Nara and Lord Vara and Bhumi Devi. Yet, because of bad association, he turned into a demon. So Bhauma became Bhaumasur, and in due course of time, because he was inflicting hellish like situation to everyone, he became Narakasur. So Narakasur and Bhaumasur now. So it is mentioned that Bhaumasur became so puffed up, he would go everywhere and destroy people and kidnap and capture people's wealth and this to bring them to his kingdom. He caused havoc in all three planets because of his power. It is said that it is said that he had got a benediction from Bhumi Devi, his own mother, that no one can actually destroy him. This is the time when Lord Narayan had actually brought and put him here as a king. That time Bhumi Devi had asked Narayan that you please benedict our son, that no one can kill him, no one can destroy him. So Lord Narayan smiled and said, are you sure no one can destroy him? Yes, no one should destroy him. He is your son. So Lord Narayan said, what about if I want to destroy him? So Bhumi Devi said, well, if I allow you, then you can. Otherwise, no one should destroy him. So Lord Narayan agreed. And now, because he became very powerful, he knew no one can destroy him, not even Lord Narayan, and plus only when Bhumi Devi allows. So all these conditions made him so puffed up that he went out of his kingdom and he created havoc and chaos all over the three planets. He would go to the other planets, fight with many people, many kings, and usurp and loot them. For example, he went to Varuna Loka and he fought with Varun Dev, and Varun Dev's prized possession is his umbrella, for which he is very well known. That umbrella, it is mentioned, Narkasur got that umbrella from there and kept it with him in this place. When Narkasur came to this place of Kamakhya, Kamarupa, or Guwahati, he named this capital as Prague Jyotishpur. The locals say here why the word Prague Jyotishpur? Because during the kingdom of Narakasur, he saw that this place is very, very suitable for many pandits who can become great astrologers. So it became from then and later also for many generations a seat of learning for great astrologers. So it became Jyotishpur. People while sitting here could actually calculate a lot of astrology properly. So it became Prague Jyotishpur. Because of that, he got this name Prague Jyotishpur. So he was using all those astrological power to um, do something good for him and try to harm others. So he was using astrology for his own purpose. So this word Prag Jyotishpur came from that particular idea. So we are discussing about Narkasur. So Narkasur became powerful. He took umbrella from Varuna. Then it is mentioned that he went to the heavenly planets. He defeated the demigods, Indra, and then he went to Aditi, the mother of demigods, and stole her earrings. So in this way, he was well known for stealing and in this way, kind of defaming many great demigods. So he came down again, and then he was going around Earth, planet Prithvi, also going around Bhumandala, different lokas in Bhumandala. And whenever he would go and attack a king and kill him and take his kingdom, he would kidnap the princess of that kingdom. In this way, Narkasur had captured 16,100 such ladies, young ladies, and kept them captivated on a hill and kept them imprisoned and kept them fortified. So, this is a way how he was creating havoc all over the world. It is mentioned that one day he became such a impudent person he became in due course of time that one day he was worshipping Kamakhya Devi, and that day Kamakhya appeared in front of her. Seeing the beauty of Kamakhya, he got infatuated. And he asked Kamakhya, "Today I want to marry you." So Kamakhya was thinking, this is a demonic tendency, right? The very person who is your master, you try to become the enjoyer of that person. This is also seen in other places where great demons, like one demon we mentioned about, we know about, is Bhasmasur, who worshipped Lord Shiva. When Lord Shiva came in front of him, he wanted to use the benediction which Lord Shiva had given on Lord Shiva and kill him so that he can enjoy Parvati. So this is a demonic tendency. Use the power, the very person who gives you power, use against that person. So Kamakhya knew that the end of Narkasura has now come because of this such kind of useless asking from her. So Kamakhya was very intelligently, she gave a trick. She mentioned that, okay, I'll marry you, but for this you have to give me three things. Today is the day, till tomorrow morning, till the cock crows or roosters, till that time you have to construct on this hill a beautiful temple, a beautiful path to reach the temple, and third is a water tank to drink water or to accumulate water. So Nargasur felt it's a very small thing, I'll do it. But he did not know that it's not so easy when it comes to Kamakhya Devi. So in the night time, he arranged all his soldiers to construct a temple and water tank. Meanwhile, he arranged himself to construct a path. So he arranged a path to reach Kamakhya temple. It is mentioned he was working very fast because he had a target. He wanted to achieve the hands of Kamakhya Devi. Kamakhya, watching that he would actually reach very fast, Kamakhya Devi played a very beautiful trick. She arranged a cock to rooster early than the morning hours. So when the cock roosted, what happened is Kamakhya came and said, "I'm sorry, but you have lost the bait. Now I cannot marry you. Hare Krishna." So it is mentioned that the cock ran away from that place, and Garkasur was so angry that he went and killed the cock. So now Kamakhya became very disturbed. So this is a person who doesn't agree with rules and regulations. So Kamakya cursed Narakasur. Narakasur, soon your end will come, and I curse to this whole land where you are the king. And after you come to your end comes, this whole land will be inhibited by Brahmaputra water. It will be under pralay for many years. Everything will be destroyed here. Narkasur did not pay any heed. He left that place and came down again to his kingdom. He felt he is so powerful, nothing can happen to him. No one can destroy him. Meanwhile, Vasishtha Muni also came here to do tapasya and take darshan of Kamakhya Devi. So Vasishtha wanted to take darshan of Kamakhya Devi. Narakasur, when he came to know Vasishtha has come, he stopped Vasishtha to go to Kamakhya temple. Vasishtha became very angry. Why you are stopping me? You're not allowed. This is my place. So Vasishtha Muni also understood that this person is very, very impudent. So he cursed Narakasur that I curse you that soon your temple will be not will be known ill famous, or rather famous for worshipping in a very different kind of way of Kamakhya, which will like mode of ignorance more than the mode of goodness. And eventually it will happen that you will be destroyed, and that the whole Kamakhya temple will also be, this whole area will undergo water in pralay. So Vasishtha Muni decided that he will stay in Guwahati in a place and do his tapasya and watch this whole ruination take place. So Vasishtha Muni stayed in Guwahati for a very long time. His place is also there, which we'll visit later. We'll see the beautiful pictures of this beautiful place. And because Vasishtha Muni stayed there, so because he wanted to, for every day of his puja, Ganga water, so invoked Ganga here from the hill. So beautiful stream of small Ganga water is flowing here, which was used for puja of Vasishtha Muni. That stream is still flowing even today also. So this is something about how Narkasur was very proud, and he came under very many curses. So this is Narkasur's path, the very path which Narkasur made. As you see, the steps, the very old steps. No one goes from the step nowadays. They have a new step also, but these are the Narkasur path, and the very steps which Narkasur himself made. This is the end of Dwapar Yuga. Um, okay, so now we will go to another place called as Umananda Island. So Umananda Island, as I told all of you, this is exactly in middle of Brahmaputra. Brahmaputra is quite large, huge. In middle, you can see a small island there. Go closer, the island appears a little more bigger, but it is one of the smallest river island in the whole world. So as we come closer to Umananda, we reach Umananda temple. This is the very place where Madan or Kamarup was uh, killed by the fire which came from Lord Shiva's eyes. And this hill became Basmachal. It was initially hill, and later, as I mentioned to you, when Narkasur was killed, this whole hill and the whole area got covered with water. So finally, now what we can see is actually a hilltop in as an island in the valley in the basin of Brahmaputra. So this is Umananda temple. Uma Ananda means Lord Shiva's name. Uma Anand, one who gives pleasure to Uma or Sati or Parvati. So these are deities of Uma Ananda. The next two is also a small island called Urvashi Island connected to this pastime. So coming back to the story of Narkasur, it is said that now Narkasur was creating havoc. So all demigods approached Lord Narayan. Lord Narayan said, well, he has got a benediction by which I can kill him only if Bhumi allows. So with that condition, now the time is not right. We'll have to wait for some time. When Dwapar Yuga comes, that time I will come as Krishna, and that time is the best time to do this work. Because Krishna knew very well that in Dwapar Yuga, when he comes, he will marry 16,108 queens, and one of the queens he would have is Satyabhama. Who is Satyabhama? Satyabhama is an expansion of Bhumi Devi. So it is mentioned that now Dwarkadish Krishna appeared in Dwarka in Dwapar Yuga, and all the demigods came again to complain to Krishna. Indra went to complain to Krishna, and Aditi, the demigod's mother, she went and complained to Satyabhama. Satyabhama became very disturbed that how can such a treacherous asura, who is causing problems to so many ladies, he has taken the earrings of Aditi Mata, and he has captured 16,100 young ladies in his fort. That's very notorious about him. So Satyabhama became very unhappy. Satyabhama went to Krishna and said, we should go and teach a lesson to Narkasur. And Krishna was waiting for this because Krishna knew that unless Bhumi orders me, I can't do it. And who is Bhumi? Who is Satyabhama? Satyabhama is an expansion of Bhumi, has now come in this particular Dwapar Yuga as Satyabhama. So then immediately Krishna agreed, and Krishna took Garuda, and on Garuda top he took along with him Satyabhama also. So unique thing, Krishna never carries his wives in the battlefield, but this battlefield, Krishna and Satyabhama both rode on Garuda, and they went to this place Kamakhya or Kamarupa or Prag Jyotishpur. So beautiful description is given in Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto and the Krishna book about what happened in the battle. So it is mentioned that when Lord Krishna reached and saw from the top from Garuda, this whole place was well fortified. What was the fortification of this place? It is mentioned that the fortification of this place was mentioned in the Bhagavatam as this place was covered from all sides by different boundaries. The first boundary was the water boundary, which we feel it should be Brahmaputra water boundary. Second is the gas boundary. Yes, they had a special chamber of gas called as Anila, and there was a boundary which was made of gas. No one can enter through the gas chambers. And third boundary was barbed electric wires. Indeed, barbed electric wires. That technology which we got uh, in the 19th or 20th century had been with Narkasur many years back in Dwapar Yuga. So he had electric fencing also. So Lord Krishna came to that place, and with his Sudarshan and his mace, he destroyed all the boundaries, the water boundary, the gas boundary, and the barbed wires. So the barbed wires were destroyed. Narkasur had a very, very powerful partner companion whose name was Mura demon. He would always lie in the waters of Brahmaputra. He would sleep there. So when he heard the chaos and the war cries, it is mentioned Mura came out of the water and he started fighting with Lord Krishna. Mura had, it is mentioned, 5 heads. So he had 5 heads. So the five-headed Rakshasa started throwing weapons. He first attacked Garuda, but Garuda, before the weapon could hit Garuda, Krishna cut the weapon down. Then it is mentioned, then he began to fight with Krishna with various arrows and weapons, and Krishna would cut all the arrows down. So when all the arrows and weapons of Mura got cut down, then he came running to fight with Krishna with his hands. And that time Krishna decided to have enough of him. Krishna used his Sudarshan Chakra and cut off his all 5 heads. And in this way, Mura demon was killed. And it is mentioned sometimes people say in the Lok Katha here that because he killed Mura, Krishna got the name Murari from here. So Murari, the name came here. So it is said that Krishna then later was attacked by Mura's son. He had seven sons. So in this way, again Krishna killed all the seven sons, and finally, when no one was around, then Narakasur came ahead to fight with Krishna. When Narakasur came ahead to fight with Krishna, it is mentioned Narakasur hit Garuda with his mighty fist. But Garuda felt like it was someone offering flower to him. He did not get hurt by that fist of Narakasur. Then there was a huge fight between Krishna and Narkasur. It is said that Narkasur used best of weapons, which Krishna immediately uh, rendered useless all those weapons. Now, during the fight, it is mentioned in Harivamsa Puran that Krishna purposely took a break. Krishna said, I am very tired, and Satyabhama, you fight with Narkasur. So there was a fight now between Satyabhama and Narkasur. And it is mentioned Satyabhama is actually Bhumi Devi herself, and she is a wife. She's also mother of Narkasur, and she's also now as Satyabhama. So she was fighting, and she was finding difficult to deal with Narkasur. So finally, she woke up Krishna and said, Krishna, now it's enough of enough. Now at this time, don't wait and kill this Narkasur. And Krishna said, thank you very much. I was waiting for this. So then immediately Krishna took his Sudarshan Chakra and chopped off the head of Narkasur. And in this way, Narkasur got killed. The day on which Narkasur got killed is the day of Deepavali, Naraka Chaturdashi. It is mentioned Narkasur was killed. Bhumi Devi came and prayed to Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna arranged that this Narkasur be glorified because he is the son of Bhumi. As one of the days of Deepavali will be, people will remember him and how Krishna killed him. So it is mentioned that Bhumi prayed to Krishna and asked forgiveness for all these things. And then she mentioned that Bhomasur or Narkasur has one son, Bhagadatta, who's very small now. He has become very confused and fearful because of all this war. So kindly give him your mercy and protection. So Lord Krishna said, we will make him the next king. So in this way, it is mentioned that Bhagavata became the next king after Narkasur. Now, what happened is Lord Krishna then went ahead and checked all the jewels and treasury which Narkasur had collected. Narkasur had a huge treasury. It is mentioned that treasury was more bigger than the treasury of Indra or Kuvera. That was a collection which he had all stolen. So Krishna decided to take all that to Dwarka and gift it to King Ugrasen and all the Dwarka Vasis. So all that jewels were piled up. In fact, Krishna decided why to pile up jewels. Krishna decided to pick the whole hill. So now Krishna wanted to pick the whole hill and take the hill on Garud top and take it to Dwarka along with everything which is precious in the hills of Kamakhya. But Krishna also realized that on hilltop there is a big prison house in which he had kidnapped 16,100 ladies. So now Krishna went to release those ladies. The story of this ladies are this, that they were kidnapped by Narkasur at different location, different places. Whenever Narkasur went and destroyed any king, what was the reason of bringing them here? Because he was worshipping Kamakhya in the mode of ignorance. The local Puranas mention here that Kamakhya in the mode of ignorance is worshipped but with five M's, five M's. First M is Matsya, fish. Second M is Mas, flesh. Third M is Madira, wine. Fourth M is Maithun, sexual intercourse. And fifth is Mudra, with hand gestures. So he was using all those techniques. So part of a technique was Maithuna, sexual intercourse. So he had captured all the queens, all the princes in that fort and kept it there and waiting for them to agree to have a relationship with him. It is mentioned that in this five M's, the Maithuna part, that one cannot have intercourse with anyone unless that person is agreeing with that. But none of these ladies were agreeing. And in fact, they were doing penance and fasting within the fort because they wanted Krishna as their husband. How they came to know about Krishna? It was Narad Muni who would come disguised here inside the fort and render Bhagavad Katha and Krishna Katha to all of them. And in this, by hearing about Krishna, they developed love for Krishna. So they decided if we have to marry anyone, it will be only Krishna. So 16,100 ladies here were inside doing penance. They had become thin and lean, and they were only waiting for Krishna to come, arrive, and release them. So Krishna came and released all of them. And Krishna knew. Krishna first told them, please go back to your home, it will be nice. And they all said that we are dignified ladies. If we go back, no one will take us because we have stayed away from our homes in some other's palace. So Krishna said, "What is your plan?" He said, "We want to marry you." And Krishna said, "Okay, no problem." So Krishna actually married 16,100 because ladies, because that was their wish to give them a dignified life. So now Krishna picked up the whole hill, along with that, all the ladies, all the jewels, put it on jewel, put it on the Garuda's back, and he flew. But when he flew, he decided first to go to Amravati, King Indra's palace in heaven, and give Aditi the earrings, and then go back to Dwarka. So when Krishna and Rukmini went to the demigod's arena, it is said that Indra greeted Krishna very nicely. He was very happy. Krishna got the earrings. Krishna killed Narakasur. So after all the formalities, when Krishna was leaving, Satyabhama saw the beautiful Parijat tree, which is a prized possession in the garden of Indra. So Parijat tree was there. So Satyabhama became very infatuated. She wanted Parijata tree because previously Narad Muni had given a Parijata flower to Rukmini, and Rukmini was having that flower. So Parijata flower was there. So Krishna had promised Satyabhama that you want a Parijat flower, I'll bring a tree for you. So now was the time for Krishna to appease Satyabhama. So Krishna uprooted the Parijata tree and took that Parijata tree to Dwarka. So Indra became very upset. So Indra went and fought with Krishna. Indra forgot everything, what happened in the past, that how in Krishna is supreme personality of God, it helped him as killing Narakasur. But Krishna fought with Indra and then defeated Indra. And Indra then realized and Indra asked forgiveness for his mistake. So Krishna took the Parijata tree along with Satyabhama and implanted the Parijata tree in the garden of Satyabhama. So this is a whole beautiful pastime of Narakasur, how Narakasur was killed and how then later it is mentioned after Bhagadatta later, his whole kingdom was covered over by waters. And it was a pralay. For many years, this kingdom was uninhabited. Only in due course of time later in Kali Yuga, when the water resided and people when the land came up, people started coming and staying here, and eventually a dynasty was established. And in due course of time, the kings in the dynasty got hold of many scriptures. From the scriptures, they relocated the places of Kamakhya Devi, and the kings then re-established the Kamakhya worship here. So this Kamakhya temple is now uh, has been established here because of the great kings who stayed here, like that. So in this way, there are many stories about Kamakhya Devi, many stories about this place connected with the pastimes with this place, Lord Shiva's pastimes, Goddess Durga's pastimes. In this way, it is mentioned that Assam was more or less a tantric state for many many years up until the 15th 16th century, when later Vaishnavism also came here. So we'll discuss about this later when we discuss about Majoli. So we'll go ahead now in a pictures view. We'll see this beautiful Vasishtha temple in Guwahati. I told you about Vasishtha temple, that how Vasishtha temple is a place where Vasishtha stayed after he cursed Narkasur. And when he stayed here, you can see this Ganga is flowing there, a small stream of river. This is the beautiful Vasishtha temple, beautiful natural place with full of landscapes. This is the Ganga flowing. Yes. And now we go to this another place called as Ashwaklanta. Now this Ashwaklanta is on the other side of Brahmaputra river. Guwahati city here, the main city is on this side, south side, and the northern side is another hillocks and hills where not much of people don't stay there. It's a very open, less dense place. In the north of Guwahati, on the other side of Brahmaputra river, is this place called as Ashwaklanta. What is Ashwaklanta? Ashwaklanta is that place where Lord Krishna later had come along with his army. And this time he was going towards Tejpur, Sonitpur, because he had to defeat Banasur. So when he was going to defeat Banasur, on the way he came here, and then suddenly he applied brakes in his chariot, and the chariot will stopped. And he stayed here for some time, took a break, and then he again went ahead to go to Banasur's place. So even today also this place has those marks of chariot and the whole army of Lord Krishna. Very few places now seen exactly on the banks of Brahmaputra. So there is a temple, there is a hill here where you can see those markings here. Welcome to Ashwaklanta Mandir. Now, it is also said, locals also say, some locals differ in the opinion. They say that it is not that Lord Krishna had come and was going towards Banasur to kill him, but actually Lord Krishna had come to kill Narkasur. So either can be both, right? But because you know from Bhagavatam that Lord Krishna did not come by chariot to kill Narkasur, he came by Garuda. So then later view, the former view of that he came by chariot to Banasur's place is more relevant, because indeed Krishna came with a huge army, the whole Yadu Sena, on his chariot to defeat Banasur in Tejpur, which is more ahead of Guwahati, which is the next place which we will go. So this is Ashwaklanta. This is the Brahmaputra bridge exactly at the place of Guwahati, not Guwahati, a little more ahead. So you can see this Brahmaputra river here, beautiful, such a vast expanse of Brahmaputra river. The famous bridge in Brahmaputra is very far away inside Assam. That's called the Bhupayan Hazarika Setu Bridge, 9 kilometer bridge on Brahmaputra. Can you imagine 9 kilometer? And it's just one part of Brahmaputra, as you can see, just one part of Brahmaputra, not everything. So this is the bridge which was recently inaugurated by Mr. our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, the biggest bridge in India so far. In Guwahati, coming back to Guwahati, this is Guwahati again. In Guwahati, northern Guwahati, where we went to Ashwaklanta, where Krishna's chariot marks are there. It is mentioned. Yeah, I forgot one more thing. Ashwaklanta is also the place where once in a year there's a big ceremony or a mela where people come and travel a boat across Brahmaputra, come to this place and offer pindadan to their father and to the parents. It is said at this time on this tithi, if someone offers pindadan here, he gets the same benefit as offering pindadan on Gaya. So in this way, this place also is uh, uh, visited by many people on this particular tithi or a day. We next go to Dola Govinda temple. It is also a very, very traditional temple. We do not know how long this temple, it has been there for many years, thousands of years in Kali Yuga. It went through a lot of different kings came and re-established the worship of deity here. I was told that geographically, the whole state of Assam and other states are there in zone 5 of the earthquake. So many earthquakes have in the past also happened here, and again reconstruction took place. So Dola Govind temple is in this way, deities are very, very ancient deities, very beautiful deities. Plus, it is mentioned that there is a beautiful tradition of offering prasad to everyone who comes here. So the prasadam time in the afternoon is well known. So many devotees and visitors often come temple here to take darshan during the afternoon time and also take the special prasadam, especially the sweet rice which is offered here to the Lord here. Dola Govind is a temple of Krishna here. So we can see so many Vaishnava sites here, Krishna temples here. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, during his travels all over India, also came to this very far off place. And then he established in north of Guwahati, this place called Barpeta. He established a Gaudiya Mutt, which is still existing, a beautiful Gaudiya Mutt, which one can visit also. It's a little far away from main city of Guwahati, but very holy and place where Srila Saraswati Thakur also had come here. And then we have a beautiful ISKCON Guwahati temple here. This was established exactly after Srila Prabhupada departed, few years after that. Very beautiful temple on the hills. The deities are called as Rukmini, Rukmini Krishna Chandra. Rukmini Krishna deities. Why Rukmini is here? Because we will mention about that point later as we go in our explanations. It is said that Rukmini Devi in one of the kalpas was born in the state of in this northeast states, and because Rukmini also had her birthplace somewhere very close by, so therefore the deities here are Rukmini Krishna deities. We will discuss about that birthplace later in our talk. So this is the deity of Rukmini and Krishna, the beautiful temple in Assam, Guwahati. This is Srila Prabhupada. The hillock temple is there. Next, we'll go to now from Guwahati. The next place we'll go is Majoli. So Majoli Island is the biggest river island on Brahmaputra. The smallest river island in the whole of world is the Umanand Island, river island. And the largest river island in the whole of world is also in Assam on Brahmaputra itself, that is Majoli. So Majuli is an island, as you see, in between the two river, in between the big river of Brahmaputra. and because it's in between Brahmaputra, many times many parts of this island get submerged underwater. So there was not much of habitation is there, but this place is famous for the culture. As I mentioned to you, that in 15th century it is mentioned that yes, in 15th century, lot of wonderful Vaishnav culture came into this place. It is mentioned there was one king in Kali Yuga during the king's reigns here. The kings they became Vaishnavas. Either they were worshipping Lord Narayan or they were worshipping later kings worshipping Lord Ram. We'll discuss about the kings later. Now it is mentioned here that this Majuli island became because there were some great saints who were in Assam who came in touch with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in when he was in Navadip, and inspired by them, the Gaudiya Vaishnavism was carried by them here. It is said that the culture of Vedic culture, the Gaudiya culture, the Vaishnava culture, thus came into Assam, in spite of Assam being a state of Lord Shiva and goddess Sati. So it is mentioned that to preserve this whole thing, they made their headquarters on this island. So even today also, as of today now, there are many gurukuls called as satra. The word satra is used for gurukul here. There are many satras here which train young children in the art of Vaishnavism. So this is Majoli Island. So if you have to go to Majoli Island, then you have to go in such big steamers. It's a very long ride. It's not a few minutes of rides. It's like hour to reach the other part because Brahmaputra is quite vast here, wide also. Almost like it looks like an ocean there. See this beautiful vast Brahmaputra. So there are different islands, like small islands in between Brahmaputra. We come to this one particular Satra here, and the different places inside Satra, and different beautiful river views within the islands. Most of the houses are erect on the bamboos on a little topper area because water flows other times. So this is a beautiful scenic view of Brahmaputra and the island of Majoli. So after Guwahati and after Majuli, now we come to the next city called Tejpur, right? Now Tejpur is a name associated with Sonitpur. Sonit, Sonit and Tej both means blood, city of blood. This is a place of Banasur demon. Now it is said Banasur, he stayed here. He was the one who kind of brainwashed Bhauma to become an Asur. So Banasur was not a small Asur, he was a very powerful Asura. And he stayed here and he had his atrocities to the whole world being done from his capital city of Sonitpur here. So we'll discuss something about Sonitpur and Tejpur now. We'll take you first to the beautiful pastime how Banasur became devotee of Lord Shiva. Banasur was a devotee of Lord Shiva and he pleased Lord Shiva. It is mentioned that Banasur had 1,000 arms. How many? 1,000 hands. And one day Lord Shiva was dancing. And watching this, Banasur came running and he played with his 1,000 hands various types of drums. He was a great musician. And because of his playing, because he has many hands, so he could play many things together, he played such a beautiful music that Lord Shiva was very happy to dance more. And Lord Shiva was so pleased by his devotee, Bana. He asked him what benediction he want. And because Lord Shiva is very easy to please Ashutosh, right? So Banasur asked him that I want you to come and stay in my city and protect my city. So Lord Shiva agreed. And since that time, it is mentioned Banasur city of Sonitpur was always protected by Lord Shiva. And because Lord Shiva was staying there, Parvati also came, Ganesha also came, and Kartikeya also came. In fact, Kartikeya became so pleased with Banasur that Kartikeya also gave him a peacock vehicle on which he can go around all over the universe, all over the world, wherever he wants. And with that, Banasur started creating havoc all over the world. So this was about Banasur pleasing Lord Shiva. Now, everything happening with Banasur was going in one sense smooth till Banasur got a daughter. So Banasur's daughter's name was Usha. So it is said that So it is said that Banasur would worship Lord Shiva in this place. There is still a Lord Shiva temple which we will visit. It is called as Banalinga, which we'll see later. So Banasur had a daughter Usha. She was very beautiful, and Banasur wanted to protect her. So Banasur kept her on a hill which was covered from all sides by fire, so that no one could cast a glance on her. And because this hill, Gad, was covered by, by fire from all sides, this hill was called as Agni Gad. Agni Gad is still present in Tejpur city. We'll visit that place. It is said that Usha stayed there, and it is mentioned that Usha would always worship Parvati Devi, because Parvati Devi was very pleased with Usha. She would always she wanted a benediction from Parvati Devi to get a good husband. One day, Usha got a chance to see the beautiful conjugal relationship of Lord Shiva and Parvati. So Usha asked for benediction from Parvati that I also want to experience the love of a lover, just like you experience love of your husband. I also want an husband. So Parvati Devi said, "Don't worry. Soon you will achieve a purpose for which you have come to me. You will get a beautiful prince as your husband, and he is staying very far from here. But he will soon come here. And when he comes here, what will happen is all things will fall into place. The pride of Banasur also will be destroyed." So Usha was very happy. But now Usha, and in fact, Parvati Devi told her also that the day when the day will close by when you will get your husband is the time when after just before few days you'll find that you have a dream. In that dream, this beautiful prince will come, and after that, maddened by love, in due course of time, you'll actually meet this prince also. So this was Parvati's benediction to Usha. Now it is mentioned Banasur one time was looking for a match. He wanted to fight with so many people, but there are people who were running after. When people would watch them, kings would watch him, they would run away. They would not even fight with him because they knew very well that he was very powerful. So finally, with his thousand arms and he had no one to fight, he went to Lord Shiva and said, Lord Shiva, you are giving me so much benediction, but I want a benediction of fighting with someone. Please give me benediction that someone can fight with me. So Lord Shiva understood that this person has become puffed up because of his power. And Lord Shiva said, so be it. Due course of time, you will find someone who is matching your power and he will fight with you. And that day will come when the flag post which you carry on a chariot, which you are very proud of, gets someone comes and cracks that flag post, makes it fall. You should understand the day is soon going to come when the flag post falls down. So now Usha, she got this benediction from Parvati Devi, and Usha was waiting for some time. And one day, one particular night, she got a dream. In that dream, she saw this beautiful prince. He was Lord Krishna's grandson, Aniruddha. So when he saw Aniruddha, she became so infatuated. When the dream broke, she could not pay attention to anything. She was completely morose, only thinking of how she can get Aniruddha. Now it is mentioned that her attendant was Chitralekha, very, very close friend of her. Chitralekha was the daughter of Kumbhanda, who was the main prime minister of Manasur. So Chitralekha understood that something is fishy, something is wrong. She is not paying attention to anything. So she asked, what is the issue? And she revealed, Usha revealed to whom? Chitralekha, that she saw a prince and Parvati had given a benediction like that. Chitralekha was a very expert artist. So Chitralekha drew a lot of art, as we can see in the screen here. She drew a lot of artists. She drew beautiful art here, and of all the paintings of great personalities who are staying on the Earth planet. But when she kept drawing and Usha kept rejecting, then finally she drew the photo of Krishna, and that time Usha became little shy. Then she drew the photo of Krishna's son Pradyumna. That time she became more shy because naturally these are going to be um, her father-in-law and great grandfather-in-law, right? So then after that, narrowing into more, Chitralekha drew the photo of Aniruddha, and that was a time. It is mentioned Usha captured the photo and she embraced the photo. So Chitralekha understood this is the guy, this is the person whom Usha is very much wanting to marry. So they said that at that time when she was looking at the photo, Banasur came in. And Banasur saw, who's this person? Why you're keeping this photo here of a male person? He became very angry. He took the photo and threw the photo away. When he threw the photo away, the photo flew out and hit the flag post. And the flag post got disassembled, got cracked upon. So it is mentioned that immediately Banasur could understand that now the time has come. Some matches, some important person is going to come and fight, and I'll get some equal match. Well, he did not know that that equal match will not be equal match, it will be a heavy match, and he will be destroyed. But Banasur is like that. Vinasha Kale Viprita Buddhi. She was very happy that some match is going to come. So Banasur went out of Agnigar and went to his own palace. And then it is mentioned that Chitralekha decided now to help Usha. So Chitralekha went through the skyways and reached Dwarka. And she decided to carry Aniruddha while he's sleeping to back from Dwarka. She would carry to this place in Tejpur in Assam. So when she came to Dwarka, she saw Narad Muni there. It is mentioned she approached Narad Muni. Narad Muni said that, well, Aniruddha now also is waiting to meet Usha, because Aniruddha also got a dream of Usha. And since that time, Aniruddha's mind also is very morose. He is not able to concentrate on any other matters. So you are taking Aniruddha will be very easy, not very difficult. And then Narad Muni taught Chitralekha, a beautiful art of conversing with a person through his mind from very far off distance. And with that art, it is mentioned in the Puranas that Chitralekha started conversing with Aniruddha, and Aniruddha came to know about that Chitralekha is a friend of Usha. So Aniruddha agreed, and therefore, by this proper vidya she had got, she carried Aniruddha, and she took Aniruddha to which place? The place called as Agnigar. With no one knowing, Aniruddha came into the palace of Usha, and they got married in Gandharva rites. See, this is the beautiful photo or diorama, which is how she carried Aniruddha. And finally, there was Gandharva marriage, and it is mentioned that Usha was very happy, Aniruddha also very happy, united. Till the time then Bana realized, and Bana came to know that something fishy is happening, and he came running inside in the palace to see Aniruddha and Usha together. So there was a big fight between Aniruddha and Banasur. Aniruddha was so powerful that he defeated the army of Banasur, and even for Banasur, he was very, very tough. At that time, Kumbhanda, the minister of Banasur, he told Banasur that you have to employ your Vidya, Mahavidya, Maya Vidya. So, use of his Maya Vidya, and finally, it is mentioned he was able to capture Aniruddha. So, it is mentioned that this is a place where this whole story happened, Agnigar. It is still in this place of Assam in Tejpur. So Aniruddha got captured now in Nagapash, and Aniruddha was kept in one prison in Agnigar. Now Narad Muni, he came to know about this. So Narad Muni went to Dwarka and informed about Aniruddha's captivity by Banasur to all Dwarka Vasis. So in this way, Krishna and Balaram with the whole Yadav Sena came charging from Dwarka to Tejpur or Sonitpur. And there was a huge battle, a very big battle. It is mentioned the battle was not between small people. The battle was between Krishna and his whole Yadav Sena along with Banasur. And because Krishna, Lord Shiva had given him promise to protect, so Banasur side, Lord Shiva was there. There was Ganesh and Kartikeya also helping him. So there was fight of two great personalities here, Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva. Great demigods had assembled in the sky to see this big match going to take place. Brahmaji also was there. Excitement was growing up. It is said that the fight began, and uh, Lord Shiva's army, along with Banasur's army, was fighting with Krishna's army. So they said Pratyumna, he was fighting in combat with Kartikeya when the fight began. Then it is mentioned that Kumbhanda was fighting with Balramji. Banasur was in touch with Satyaki, and Lord Shiva was fighting with Krishna. It is said that when Lord Shiva was fighting with Lord Krishna, Shiva first sent his ghost hobgoblins to scare Krishna's army. But Krishna used his Sharanga bow, Dhanush, and he scattered all the ghosts and hobgoblins with this transcendental sound, and they ran away from the battlefield, never to come again. It is mentioned then Lord Shiva, he placed a hurricane weapon and threw it on Krishna. Krishna retaliated by throwing a mountain weapon and retaliated the hurricane. Then Lord Shiva, he threw a fire weapon. Lord Krishna threw a rain weapon. Then Lord Shiva threw his own Pashupat Astra, and Lord Krishna threw his Narayan Astra. So in this way, the fight was very exciting. It is mentioned now Krishna decided that now this fight will continue eternally if I fight with Lord Shiva. Therefore, he decided to change the whole strategy. So Lord Krishna then threw his yawning weapon, when people yawning weapon. And by that yawning weapon, Lord Shiva and all Lord Shiva's associates, they all fell to sleep. And now Krishna was standing there alone and Bhanasur was in front of him. So now Krishna got a chance to fight with Bhanasur. Krishna slowly overpowered the entire Bhanasur army. There were huge fatalities on the side of Banasur. Banasur also was overpowered and he was about to die. And at that time, the Devi whom Banasur worships in his city of Tejpur, Kotara Devi, she is a goddess of, she emblems the worship of ignorance. So she came, she was very terrible looking, and she came having no clothes on her body in front of Krishna. So Krishna became very disgusted and closed his eyes. When Krishna closed his eyes, Banasura took the opportunity and ran away from battle to take some rest and take a break. So Banasura ran away from battle. Meanwhile, Lord Shiva now woke up from his sleep, and again he began to combat with Krishna. So Lord Shiva, he now threw a very powerful weapon called as Shiva Jwara. Shiva Jwara. And then to combat Shiva Jwara, Lord Krishna showed through Narayan Jwara. Shiva Jwara means a very hot weapon, and Narayan Jwara is a cold weapon. So when Shiva Jwara came charging on the Yadu army, what happened? The whole Yadav army were feeling the heat. In fact, the whole universe was feeling heat. But when Krishna threw Narayan Jwara, everyone felt cool. In fact, Shiva Jwara became cold, and he knew that if he remains like this, then he will die. So he took shelter of Lord Shiva. Please help me. I'm getting cooled down. Lord Shiva said, I cannot help. Go to Krishna. So Shiva Jwara went to Krishna and surrendered to Krishna, and Krishna saved his life. So in this way, there was a beautiful fight between Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva. And it is mentioned that finally, Lord Krishna, again, when Banasur came back into the fight, rejuvenated, Lord Krishna then took over Banasur and defeated all his weapons, cut all his weapons out. And finally, Lord Krishna decided to have enough of Banasur. Lord Krishna sent his Sudarshan Chakra and chopped off 998 hands of Banasur, and just two hands were remaining. It is mentioned Lord Shiva at that time came and asked Krishna, please kindly kindly bestow forgiveness to my devotee Banasur. He is very dear to me, very, very close to me. Therefore, don't kill him. And also, Lord Krishna, you should know that you have given benediction to Prahlad Maharaj that you will not kill anyone in his dynasty. So this Banasur comes in the dynasty of Prahlad Maharaj. And Lord Krishna said, yes, I know. Therefore, I have not killed him. I only chopped off his pride of having 1,000 arms. So now he has only 2 arms. So now we'll come back to normal. By this time, Banasur also humbled down and he offered obeisances to Lord Krishna's feet. And then he bought Usha and Aniruddha. And it is mentioned Usha and Aniruddha in due course of time got married. The place where they got married is in very close to Kedarnath in Himalayas, which is also a place of Lord Shiva called Ukhi Mutt. And there is a beautiful temple personifying the place where Usha got married with Aniruddha. So this is a beautiful battle of Tejpur, Sonitpur, and because this whole battle was full of blood, so therefore this place became Tejpur, the place of blood. So this is a beautiful Agnigar. As you see this, all these dioramas are on the Agnigar small hillock, which is still existing in Tejpur. Agnigar, this is how Banasur is. Banasur came to know about how Usha and Aniruddha are together, and this is a fight between Banasur and Aniruddha. He binds him with Nagapasha, There's a fight between Krishna and Shiva army, Lord Shiva and Lord Shiva Krishna's army. A beautiful fight. This is Agnigarh Ilok. Go upstairs. Beautiful place. All dioramas just close to Brahmaputra. Beautiful view of the huge Brahmaputra river from here. And this is the garden which is now maintained by the government there. This is Banasu praying to Lord Shiva. Beautiful dioramas in Agnigar. All these dioramas which we showed now, they're all on the Agnigar hillock. This way, Bhamuni Hills. This is actually a place where Banasu had his palace. So Bhamuni Hills also is still existing in Tejpur. You go to Bhamuni Hills, you will find the ruins of the palace of Banasur yet even now also. So this is a Bhamuni Hills. These are the ruins of his palace. Even today also you can see all the different ruins, Bhamuni Hills, Banasur's palace. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also came to Tejpur in his travels. He established a beautiful Gaudiya Math here in Tejpur, very beautiful place to visit as well. This is the Gaudiya Math temple, initially established by Srila Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, and now later redeveloped and made more bigger and better. Different beautiful deities and temple here. Deities are here, beautiful deities. This is the personal deity of Banasur, which Banasur worshipped. The deity is still in Tejpur today. It's called a Banalinga. So let's go temple of Banalinga. Take darshan of Lord Shiva here. Huge deity of Banasur. Lord Shiva there. Banalinga. Nice worship, Abhishek, dressing of the deities going on. Yes, his city was so beautiful that he had kept a lot of parks and sarovars in his city. Bana also made one sarovar of lotuses. So that sarovar is now it's very small, but even now also the whole place is beautified. Beautified. It's called as Padam Pukuri. Padam is lotus. Pukuri is sarovar or pond. It's like a garden. People go there and visit that place. There's a Rudrapat temple here on the banks of Brahmaputra. So this is a beautiful feat of Lord Shiva. When Lord Shiva decided to come and stay here to provide security to Banasur, he came and stepped here to stamp this place, to tell everyone that this place is under my security. So that stamping is here in form of his beautiful lotus feet called as Rudrapat. Very close to Tejpur, in between Tejpur and Guwahati, on the other side of banks of Brahmaputra, is the famous national park of Kaziranga, which also people visit when they go there. And now we come to Brahmaputra River. Brahmaputra River is the heart of Assam. You will see this beautiful here. This river is flowing all the way from Mansarovar in Kailash. That is the origin of this place, of this river, and flows all the way from there and it comes down to Assam. It is said that it is one of the longest rivers flowing, which flows to three different countries. First is Tibet, China. Second is India, Assam, and third is Bangladesh. So three countries it flows through. And it is said how this river came into existence in our Earth planet. The story goes like this: that in heaven there was one Gandharva whose name was Shantanu, and he had a wife. Both of them wanted a child, but did not get child for many long years. So they prayed to Brahmaji, and Brahmaji gave them something in the form of beach, and said to the wife, "To you eat this beach, you will get a child." Because this beach came from Brahmaji, it became Brahma Bija, and she ate that beach. And surprising to her, the child came from her nostrils. And when child came out, the child came in the form of a liquid form. The child was a liquid form. So Brahmaji told them that you have to give a place to this child. This child will become very famous. You have to give him a location where you can keep this child. So they all decided that the best place to keep this child is near Kailash Mansarovar, where Brahmaji's famous place is there, where Mansarovar Lake is also there. Where Mansarovar Lake came later actually. They came and put this whole thing. And they mentioned that this is Mansarovar Lake or Brahma Kund or this is all together. Not much detail is given to me. So only thing which I can say is Mansarovar Lake, from which Brahmaputra came into existence. How Brahmaputra river flew from Mansarovar Lake, that story is connected with Parshuram. So the story goes like this: that Parshuram, when he was in with his father in Jamadagni, in the forest, in his ashram, and that time it is mentioned that Jamadagni's wife Renuka made some mistake, and Jamadagni became very angry, and he told his other sons to immediately kill their mother, but the other sons did not agree. And then when Parshuram came, Jamadagni said, "You should kill your mother and also kill all your brothers because they did not hear me." Parshuram knew very well that his father was a very powerful person, and therefore even if he kills, something good will come out. So without thinking any much, Parshuram, who was a Kshatriya avatar now, he went and killed Renuka and also killed all his brothers. Jamadagni became very pleased. Jamadagni said, Parshuram, I am very happy with you. What do you want? Parshuram said, please bring my mother back to life and my brothers back to life. And Jamadagni said, so be it. Immediately, all of them, they got up from their slumber, their death. In fact, Parshuram also asked Jamadagni that let them not remember that I had killed them. So, okay, they will not remember. And because Parshuram got inflicted with the sin of actually killing his mother, it is mentioned the axe which Parshuram was carrying, Lord was carrying the axe was not coming out of his hand. So this is also pastime of Lord Parshuram. Parshuram is Lord himself, but through his Leela, he is teaching us that how even mistakes done by us should not be taken or neglected. So then he was going all over the earth, but he could not remove the axe from his hand. So Parshuram came to Mansarovar, and as soon as he came to Mansarovar and dipped in this Brahmakunda, it is mentioned that his axe came out. So he realized this is a very powerful. And then he asked Brahmaji, how can something be so powerful stay in one place in such a difficult terrain? It has to go to all places. So by the power of Parshuram, he hashed Parshu in front of the whole Sarovar. And it is mentioned that from that Sarovar, the water started flowing through the mountains and eventually it came down to the plains. And because it is the son of Brahma, the Brahma beach, this river which flow from Mansarovar became Brahmaputra. As we see this beautiful river is flowing here so nicely. There's a whole river coming all the way from Himalayas, flowing through Assam, and then entering Bangladesh and entering Ganga, entering the Sagar, the ocean. It's a beautiful bridges on Brahmaputra. It's a huge river, so many bridges are there, and bridges are not small. It's in kilometers bridge. The biggest bridge which we discuss is 9 kilometers bridge, and this is Brahmaputra. Beautiful scene of Brahmaputra river. Very beautiful green place because the land is full of water everywhere. So greenery everywhere. In fact, during British time, they used this land for cultivating tea gardens. So even now, also many places in Assam are famous for tea plantations. So this is Brahmaputra. You can see in Brahmaputra here. So vast Brahmaputra becomes very narrow when it comes to this place called as Guwahati here, city of Guwahati, and again it goes ahead and becomes wide. So at Guwahati it narrows down, but then that place it becomes very deep in Guwahati area, and later again it spreads. So this is a wide spread of Brahmaputra river. So now we have done Assam, beautiful journey of Assam. Now we will move on to the next journey of Arunachal Pradesh. In Arunachal Pradesh, as you know, we went to this place called as Parshuram Kund. We have discussed about Lord Parshuram. It is said that Parshuram hit his arrow and released the river, the water in form of a river. So some people say that Parshuram, when he hit the axe, that place became a kund, and that was Parshuram Kund. So, but that has to be near Mansarovar then. But some locals say that he came here and he hit his arrow here, axe here also. Parshu hit his axe at this place in Arunachal Pradesh. So there is a Parshuram Kund as well here, which is same as that place. It can be Kalpa Bhed, a different place, different time, places, different days of Brahma. So Parshuram has hit his axe here. He got free from the sin of killing Renuka, mother, and therefore it is mentioned that it's very auspicious place to come and uh, take bath and offer tarpan to mothers also here. So this is Parshuram Kund here. It's a beautiful place, water gushing in. There's a river which flows here, and in between the river there is a kund. So when the river which hardly dries up, but sometimes when the water is less, you can actually see the kund also. But actually, the kund is submerged in the river. We were discussing about Rukmini's birthplace, right? So close to Arunachal Pradesh only, in the on the bordering to Assam, there is a place called as Kundil Nagar, where there are ruins of King Bhishmaka's palace. So there is saying here that Rukmini is also said to be born here. We all know that Rukmini was born in Vidarbha in Maharashtra, but there is also maybe a Kalpa Bhed where different places, different times, Rukmini also was born here, and Krishna came here one time and kidnapped Rukmini from here. So ruins of that place is also there in Kundil Nagar. This is also called as Bhishmak Nagar. So this is the ancient remains of Bhishmaka Nagar or Bhishmaka Fort. So it's under archaeological department and they are maintaining this place. A lot of artifacts have been found there. In this way, we covered our Arunachal Pradesh also. So the next place which we are going now is Manipur. How this name Manipur came? A very beautiful story to connect this pastime. You know that we have said Lord Shiva has been staying in this place near Guwahati, Kamakhya, and there are many more places of Lord Shiva's here. And Lord Shiva and Parvati always were residing here. So Lord Shiva and Parvati once were dancing, and it is mentioned that when they were dancing so beautifully, it is said that Ananta Shesh, he came here to see the beautiful dancing of Shiva and Parvati. And that time it is mentioned that he arranged that from his jewels, which is on his heads, he sparkled a lot of light. So that lot of light is dazzling around this place so that Shiva and Parvati's dance could be very nicely done. So because the lights were coming from the mani, which was on the heads of Ananta Shesha, Lord Shiva was very pleased and he was dancing more nicely with Parvati Devi. And they were enjoying the dance. And due course of time, the dancing was so ecstatic that Ananta Shesh also was carried away, or rather very much influenced by dance, and he also began to dance and moving his fangs and heads. So he was having this money on his head and he was moving very vigorously. And moving vigorously those fangs, some of the monies from his thousand heads fell down to this place. And because it fell in this place, those monies fell here and this place became very effulgent and bright. And thus this place got the name Manipur because the money fell from the hoods or the fangs of Anantashesha. Manipur happens to be a very, very important Vaishnava state. From many, many centuries, Vaishnavism is followed here by common people in common masses. Why? Because uh, all due to the great kings who came here, ruled here, and they were all Vaishnavas, and they propagated the culture of Vaishnavism in their state. So it is said that these kings who are staying in Manipur and also who are staying in Nagaland, all these areas nearby, they have a connection with Arjuna of the five Pandavas. It is said that Arjuna came here and married the princess of Manipur. Her name was Chitrangada. And Arjuna got a son from her. His name was Babruvahan. So all the descendant, all the kings who came in this particular tract of land who ruled, they are considered to be descendants of Babruvahan. So there's a beautiful story about how this happened. Let's venture on this beautiful story. It is mentioned that in the Mahabharata that Arjuna once was exiled due to some reasons by Yudhishthir Maharaj and Draupadi because he had transgressed a common rule which all the five Pandavas had kept. And Arjuna had asked for this punishment from Yudhishthir Maharaj. Maharaj was not willing, but because it was a rule made by all the five Pandavas, so Arjuna decided to go for an exile for 1 year. So during this exile, Arjuna was visiting many places. So while visiting many places, Arjuna came to this particular tract of land, and the king of Manipur gave him some time to stay here and rejuvenate and then go ahead in his journey. So when Arjuna stayed here, he came in touch with the with the daughter of this king of Manipur, and both of them liked each other. And then Arjuna asked for the hand of Chitrangada in marriage from the king of Manipur. The king of Manipur became so happy to get Arjuna as a son-in-law was a great fortune for him. He said, "I'll definitely get my daughter married to you, but you have to give me a condition for that." Arjuna said, "What is the condition?" The condition is that in our generations of forefathers, we had got a benediction that from the Lord Shiva, that we will be having always one child in our family, and that child will continue our lineage. But now, as I see here, I have only one child, and that is a daughter. So if she marries you, then she will go away from this place and go to your place of Hastinapur. So then what that will happen? If that happens, then there will be no one after me to rule this entire dynasty. So therefore, with one condition that you marry, but Chitrangada stays with me only, and that his son will stay with his child will stay with me, and that child will be the next king of this place. So Arjuna agreed with that whole proposal, and due course of time, Arjuna married Chitrangada here. Arjuna stayed for 3 months here, within which time Chandraganda became pregnant, and Arjuna decided now that he had to go ahead in his travels. In due course of time, Chitranganda gave birth to Babruvan, a great child who later on became a great prince and later on became a great king of this dynasty. So this is the connection of Arjuna, the five Pandavas, and this tract of land in northeast, where the king of Manipur got connected to Arjuna. Now it is mentioned that Arjuna again came here once more time. Once more. How? What was the reason? This was after the battle of Kurukshetra. Yeah, in the battle of Kurukshetra, all of Arjuna's sons they came and took part, except Babruvan. Because Babruvan, if he would have come, then he would also, if he would have died, then there would be no king in the kingdom of Manipur. So therefore, Babruvan did not come for engaging in battle of Kurukshetra. He remained here as the king here, and it is mentioned that time that when the battle of Kurukshetra got over and the Pandavas became victorious, it is said that Arjuna was summoned by Yudhishthir Maharaj that he should help him in doing Ashwamedha Yagya. Yudhishthir Maharaj was performing Ashwamedha Yagya. The Ashwa was kept in the Yagya, and the Ashwa was then released, and Arjuna was following the Ashwa. So when Arjuna was following the Ashwa, every kingdom where the Ashwa, the horse was going, all the king were accepting the sovereignty of Yudhishthir Maharaj. Till the horse came to Manipur, and this was the place where the king of this place was Arjuna's own son Babruvan. So Babruvan, when came to know that his father has come, he became so happy. He came with his full army clothes, with his full fighting clothes, but he went and came down to Arjuna and offered obeisances and offered arti to Arjuna. And Arjuna said, "I didn't expect this from you." Arjuna became very angry on Babruvan. He said, "What kind of a king you are? I have come here on the presence of a fight with you, and you're offering me arti. I would rather be happy if you offer me a fight." Babruvan was taken back. He said, "What his father is saying? That he wants to fight with him?" So he was very confused. At that time, it is mentioned that one more lady, Ulupi, she came. Now, who was this lady Ulupi? Ulupi also was the wife of Arjuna. It is mentioned when Arjuna came to marry Chitrangada, that was the time when Arjuna was taking bath in the river, and Ulupi became very much attracted to Arjuna, and she carried Arjuna from the waters into her land, which is the land of Nagas. Right? So local people here say that she was from Nagaland. But anyway, she was from Nagaloka, and Arjuna got married to Ulupi and gave her a son Iravan, who later participated in the Battle of Kurukshetra and got killed there. So Ulupi also was one more wife whom Arjuna got when he visited Manipur. So now Ulupi came out and she came in front of both Arjuna and Babruvan. And Babruvan took the opportunity to ask his stepmother, "My dear mother, what should I do? My father is saying me to fight with him." And Ulupi said, agreed, said, yes, he should fight with him because there is a reason for it. So now when Babruvan was first summoned by his father and now by his stepmother, so immediately Babruvan agreed. And there was an intense fight between Arjuna and Babruvan. Arjuna shot many arrows which hit Babruvan's chest, and Bhagwan shot many arrows which hit Arjuna's chest. In due course of time, it is mentioned Bhagwan was very much injured, but he did not give up fighting because he wanted to serve his father. And finally, Babruwan took a very powerful arrow and hit it straight at the chest of Arjuna. The arrow hit Arjuna's chest and got Arjuna down. He was almost lifeless. He was dead. When Babruwan saw that, because he was so injured, he became so much disturbed by the whole news that he also fell down without any life. It is mentioned that this was a very ghastly scene where Arjuna had fallen off, Babruwan had fallen off. The news reached Chitrangada, and she became so upset. She came running in the battlefield. She saw her son first. It is mentioned, but just by the touch of her son was revived. The son came back to consciousness. And later, when he came to know that what he has done, both son and mother, Chitrangada, they were crying profusely for the loss of Arjuna. And just then Chitrangada saw Ulupi, who had also come now. And she said to Ulupi, "What kind of mother you are? Why did you allow my son Babruwan to fight with his father Arjuna?" Ulupi said, "Don't worry. This is all preordained." Ulupi told the whole story. Ulupi said, when Arjuna defeated Bhishma Pitama in the battle of Kurukshetra, Bhishma is one of the Vasus. So in the past life, Bhishma was Vasu. The other Vasus in the heavenly planet became very disturbed in the way Arjuna tricked and killed Bhishma. So the Vasus came to Ganga and Mother Ganga, and they complained to Mother Ganga that we are unhappy in the way which Arjuna killed Bhishma. So therefore, we want to curse. And Ganga agreed that yes, he should curse Arjuna, that he should also die like this. So they curse Arjuna that you will also die like this soon. That's the way Bhishma is killed in the war. So when this was announced that he is cursed, this curse was known just to Ganga and the Vasus. But because Ganga was knowing this, so through the water of Ganga, Ulupi also was there. She also heard this curse. So Ulupi became very much in anxiety. And Ulupi then went to Vasus and she prayed for help that why you're doing like this? What is the fault of Arjuna? He was just fighting the war because his kingdom was at stake. So when Vasus were consoled like this to Ulupi, the Vasus said, okay, so we cannot take the whole curse back, but we have done the curse in such a way that he will die, but he will be relieved again. How he will be relieved? That let him die in the hands of his son, and by the hands of his son again he can get revived. So immediately this curse was little changed of track by the good presence of Ulupi. Also, Ulupi knew very well that Arjuna is not a mortal person who will die like this. So he's thought that this is all a great pastime which is going to unfold in due course of time in future. And therefore, when Babruwan was challenged by Arjuna, it was Ulupi who agreed for a challenge. He said, "Go ahead," because she knew very well. If this happens, everything will fall good for everyone. So now Ulupi went, after telling all that, she went to her Nagalokas and she got a special money from her father. And she came and got this money, and Bhagavan touched the money to his father's head, Arjuna's head, and Arjuna again came back to life. He completely forgot the past that he had fought a battle like that. So they said that because Arjuna's killing was by son, and generally son is same as father, so he was killed and also not killed. So this was a beautiful interaction which happened and in Manipur. And later it is mentioned that Arjuna then took Chitrangada with him to Hastinapur. Meanwhile, Bhagwan had already become quite big. He was the king, and then he got married, and his whole dynasty later took charge of the kingship here. So these are two beautiful pastimes of Arjuna's connection with Manipur. So it's a beautiful land of Manipur here, very picturesque, scenic beauty. There are many beautiful temples of Manipur because, as I mentioned, there were great kings in the dynasty of Babruwan. It is said that in the 15th century there was a king who became the ruler of Manipur, and he was a very great Vaishnava king. So he built many Vishnu temples here. Later, some kings came; they were Rama devotees, so they built temples of Lord Ramachandra here. And in due course of time, because of this kingship rule of great Vaishnavas, literally the whole masses, common people here are Vaishnavas who follow the culture of Vaishnavism. right from the childhood or birth. So these are beautiful places in Manipur, beautiful marketplaces, monuments. This is a beautiful monument here. This is another temple here, Vijay Govind Temple in Manipur. Beautiful deities, traditional style of dressing. Like there's so many beautiful temples here. Sri Krishna Temple, historical monument of Sri Krishna Temple during Maharaj Charai Rongba, 1697. Beautiful deity Jagannath Swami, Radha Govinda. So there are beautiful, beautiful small temples all over Manipur, age-old temples worshipped by devotees. Yeah, we come to ISKCON Manipur. But before that, we will tell you the story of what happened in Manipur, how this Manipur state became a Krishna conscious state. Now, to make this understand, we need to go in the year 1700. So, as I was mentioning, there was one great king who was a great Ram devotee. He got as a grandson one very nice young man, young boy, whose name was Bhagya Chandra. This Bhagya Chandra was indeed going to be the Bhagya of the entire Manipur state. How? Let's hear the beautiful story of Bhagya Chandra king. Bhagya Chandra became very big king. He was ruling very nicely Manipur. He was born devotee. He had natural attraction for Krishna since his childhood. But there was a conspiracy against him, which was taking place. His own maternal uncle, he conspired with the Burmese and they attacked Manipur. And because of this sudden attack, Bhagya Chandra, along with his wives and few attendants, had to flee Manipur overnight and run away from Manipur. They took shelter of Assam, where the king of Assam was also his good friend. It is mentioned king of Assam knew very well that King Bhagya Chandra is a very pious king, so he gave him shelter. The uncle of King Bhagyachandra was still not happy, even though he became the king of Manipur. He knew as long as King Bhagyachandra lived, he would be always, there will be doubt for him and there will be always some attack and he may again become the king. So the uncle of Bhagyachandra now sent a letter wherein in the letter he told the king of Assam that the Bhagyachandra king which is staying, who is staying with you is not the real Bhagyachandra king. Is a false Bhagyachandra king. Bhagyachandra real is already killed. And if you want to check whether it's false or true, you can check because the real king had many supernatural powers. So King of Assam thought that the real king had a lot of supernatural powers, so therefore let me test him. So we'll come to know. So then now the King Bhagyachandra also understood that King of Assam had got some doubt and suspicion on him. So then just depending on Krishna, King Bhagyachandra said, yes, whatever you want me to be undergoing any test, I'll definitely do that. So it is said that next day they arranged, they had a plan of arranging an elephant. The elephant will be raised in an arena, and in the arena there will be King Bhagyachandra who had to tame the elephant. When the king came to know about this taming of an elephant, he intensely prayed to Krishna. It is mentioned King Bhagyachandra, when he prayed to Krishna, Krishna appeared in a dream and told three things to the king. First is, don't worry. Tomorrow, when you go to the arena, you carry a bead bag and a garland, and everything I will control. And second thing is, after you win over your Manipur kingdom back with the help of King of Assam, you should establish a deity of mine. And that deity you can carve from a jackfruit tree in Kaina. So Kaina is a place in Manipur. And after that, when you establish my temple in your capital city, that time you should specially work on propagating the culture of Rasa Leela dance, which I like very much. So there are three things which Krishna told him. So it is mentioned that the next day, then when King Bhagyachandra was in the arena with his bead bag and garland, everyone was surprised. That what kind of king is he? The elephant is going to attack him and is carrying a bead bag and a garland. But the king very well knew that it is Krishna's plan. So the elephant came charging at King Bhagyachandra, but as soon as he came near, the elephant kneeled down and he offered obeisances. Everyone was surprised. And the king of Assam got confirmation that this is the real King Bhagyachandra. He has such a supernatural power. Only King Bhagyachandra knew that it is all because of Krishna. It is mentioned that only King Bhagyachandra could see that the elephant was being driven, or Krishna was riding on the elephant, and Bhagyachandra was just offering obeisance to Krishna, who was sitting on the back of the elephant. So this one desire of Krishna got fulfilled. Then later it is mentioned with the help of King of Assam, King Bhagyachandra again got back his kingdom, and he remained in his kingdom for some more years. It is mentioned that he had not established a deity. He did not go to Kaina, did not look for a jackfruit tree because he was thinking that now my kingdom is not secure. The Burmese may come anytime to attack me. So therefore, he thought, let me not establish this deity now. Later, at a time when everything is secure, I'll establish the deity. So because of which he was avoiding the installation of the deity. Meanwhile, Krishna was not happy by the plans of this plan of Bhagyachandra. So one day, King Bhagyachandra got a message from his attendant that one tribal lady has come from Kaina and she wants to meet Bhagyachandra. So King Bhagyachandra was arranged for her to meet him, and she said that few days back, while I was cultivating my crops in the field, one very mischievous child, very beautiful, started coming and playing with me, and I also would play with her, play with him. In due course of time, he won my heart, and then he told me very straightforward. One day, he was in a very angry mood. That child, he said, "I want you to go to the king Bhagyachandra and tell him that I am angry with him. I am Govinda. My name is Govinda. I am angry with him that he has not come to Kaina and not made a deity of mine." And then the child disappeared. The tribal lady said, "I am surprised who this child is, but looks like he is Krishna." And then immediately King Bhagyachandra said, "Thank you very much. Who got a chance to see Krishna." Bhagyachandra arranged that even though it is not secure as per me, but because Krishna wants it, so then King Bhagyachandra, it is mentioned, it is said that he went to this place of Kaina and then he located this jackfruit. And it is said that he asked his craftsmen to break this tree and remove the wood out of it. As soon as the people started cutting the tree with an axe, there was a gush of red liquid which came out of the tree as if it was a blood. Immediately, the king stopped the cutting of the tree, and king realized that this is an auspicious tree; it cannot be cut like that. The king decided to uproot the whole tree. So, king uprooted the whole tree and brought the tree to his capital city where he was staying. And the sculptures, he gave them an idea. He said that I saw a dream, and this is what I saw in the dream. The beautiful deity of Krishna should be like this. So the sculptures drew carved the deity of Krishna and showed him. He said, "This is not exactly like this." So he carved another one from the tree. So in this way, 6 times they carved the deity, and every time the deities were carved, he said, "This is not exactly the same deity." But each deity which he carved, because it came from the auspicious trees, it is mentioned, he established those deities in different places in Assam and other places in around Assam. So these 6 deities, the auspicious trees, these 6 deities are existing even today. It is mentioned that some of these deities, most of these deities are in Assam, and some of these deities are in even in Navadip. One deity is in Navadip also. So these deities, it is said that after 6 deities were established and installed, now only just little of the tree was remaining. And the king said, "Carve from this particular now remaining part." And the sculptures were all very in anxiety. 6 times we carved, and it was rejected. It is not the same deity as he saw. And now only remaining little part is there. What should be done? So they prayed intensely to Govindji to appear. And it is mentioned by the prayers of king and by the prayers of sculptures. Finally, the last deity which they made exactly came same as the deity or the form of Krishna. And then around Govindji deity, then the culture of Ras Leela was established. Since then, this dancing of Ras Leela with a lot of culture, a lot of music, it has been an integral part of Manipur. And since there, even now also, great devotees, great singers, great musicians, great dancers, they all join together for the performance of Rasa Leela for the pleasure of Govind deity in Manipur. So it is said that this culture was so prominent that even Srila Prabhupada also knew about this. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, when he met uh, one of his early disciples, Dr. T.D. Singh, Todam Singh, who later on became known as Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. As soon as Srila Prabhupada met him in America, he saw that this young man was doing his doctorate in chemistry. So he told him to dedicate his life in preaching Krishna consciousness to scientific circles. But he also told him that when you get chance, you should go back to your Manipur state, which is a Vaishnava state, and you should revive Vaishnavism culture by establishing Krishna consciousness there. So, following in footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj got involved in preaching to scientific circles. He became part of the, he was the main organizer of Bhaktivedanta Institute, and also along with scientific background, he was a very well known for his wonderful cultured singing and his beautiful cultured relationship with his with other devotees, and all this he had got from the culture of Manipur. So he came back to Manipur and established ISKCON temple in Manipur, and there is also a temple of ISKCON in the very birthplace where Srila Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj was born. That village also they have a beautiful temple of Radha Damodar. In Imphal, the capital of Manipur, they have the temple of Radha Krishna Chandra, beautiful temple of Krishna Chandra deities. So we find here beautiful temple of Krishna Chandra deity here, ISKCON Manipur, built by the beautiful efforts of Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, and beautiful ceilings, beautiful deity of Radha Krishna Chandra. Many times they dress the deity in the traditional Manipuri style here, and the deities are standing in a way that looks like they are dancing now in Rasa Leela. These are the beautiful postures, temples, devotees. This is the village. This is the place where Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj Samadhi Mandir is there, Bhajan Kutir. Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, he left this world few years back, and while doing so, he was constantly remembering the beautiful conjugal pastimes of Shri Radha and Krishna while leaving his body. His samadhi is now done in Radha Kund. Srila Prabhupada also remarked many times that Manipur kings were so many nice Vaishnavas that they have built beautiful temples in Vrindavan. So there are many temples of built by Manipur kings. So one of such temple which is on the banks of Radhakund, there is a samadhi of Srila Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj as well. There are different accolades Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj got. All tributes go to him for establishing Krishna consciousness in reviving the culture of Vaishnavism in a beautiful way in Manipur, his home state. Beautiful singing of kirtan in a Manipuri style. Childhood pictures of Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj getting initiated by Srila Prabhupada. It's a beautiful temple of ISKCON in Imphal, Manipur, where the traditional dances you can see, beating of mridangas and dancing of Rasa Leela takes place there. Beautiful deities in temple. This is a temple in the uh, village of Srila Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, Radha Damodar temple. This is Imphal temple again. This is Radha Damodar temple mandir of the village of Srila Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. The beautiful deity of Govindji, which was established by King Bhagyachandra, that is also established even now. It is there in Imphal. This is a beautiful dream which you mentioned ahead of time, where Krishna came in a beautiful form, and he told that he will come and save him. The elephant pastime, the elephant story, and later also Krishna said, "I'll come in the form of a jackfruit tree." You can see a jackfruit tree behind, and Bhagyachandra should carve a deity the same form. So eventually, this temple was built. This is Govindji temple in Imphal. This is a beautiful temple hall, and these are the deities. The beautiful Govindji deity, which was carved in the year 1770 or so, around that time, because of the beautiful devotion of King Bhagyachandra. So in this temple premises, they have got Prati Govardhan Hill, Patirup Govardhan Hill, Patirup Shamakunda, Radhakunda. Devotees, traditional common people are devotees here who do service to Radha Govindji. This is Govardhan here. This is the deity of Bhagyachandra Maharaj, and it is the photo of Bhagyachandra Maharaj as well. So this is Khaina, the place where the jackfruit was tree was there, and from that it is mentioned. People say yeah that the same place where the jackfruit tree was uprooted. From there, another tree grew up. So that tree is worshipped as very auspicious. This is the photo of King Govind, deity Govindji, which is now established in Imphal. But this is the temple in Kayana, in that very garden where jackfruit trees grow in abundance even today also. The next place we'll go from Manipur is Tripura. Tripura has a very beautiful pastime. The name Tripura means three cities. What is this three cities? It is said that Tripura got its name because there were there was Tripurasur who had three sons who were given benedictions that they will have three cities, and as long as they are in the cities, they will not be destroyed, neither city will be destroyed. The only condition for destroying the city was that if three cities come together at one point in time and someone at that time shoots arrows, all the three cities will burn to ashes. So this explanation and this particular pastime is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam as well, where Lord Shiva then finally was given a beautiful weapon by Lord Krishna, and Lord Shiva while fighting with Tripurasur and his three sons, it is mentioned that finally shot an arrow. But, exactly at time when these three cities actually came together for some reason converge, and when that arrow was shot, which Krishna had given, that arrow destroyed the three cities and destroyed Tripurasur and all his children. Now, what happened is when the city was destroyed, the ruins of that three city came falling and came and fell at this place. And because it came and fell this place, from the ruins, Lord Shiva built a city called as Tripura. So because Tripura was built by the ruins of Tripurasur, so Lord Shiva got the name as Tripurantak, and this Tripura kingdom came into existence after that pastime. In fact, in this whole city, in this whole state, there is the dominance of Parvati Devi as the main deity. She has a beautiful temple called as Tripura Sundari temple. This is a beautiful temple of Tripura Sundari, where the goddess Parvati, she is the main worshipable deity of this entire state of Tripura. Shri Parvati Devi ki jai, Tripura Sundari ki jai. So these are beautiful pictures of this temple here. The next state we are going to cover is Sikkim. Sikkim is known for its great landscape and beauty. It is said that Sikkim has connection with the great Himalayan mountains. The well-known Himalayan peaks, one of the well-known Himalayan peaks is Kanchenjunga. It is said the Kanchenjunga peak is located in the district of Sikkim. You can see the Kanchenjunga peak here. It is mentioned Sikkim where nature smiles. So this is the Kanchenjunga peak of Himalayan mountains, which is part of Sikkim. It is said that there are beautiful landscape. People go and admire the beauty of Krishna's nature here in Sikkim. Uh, Basically, it's a very tourist location, a place of vacation. People go to travel there. But it also has a spiritual significance for two reasons. One is because there is a pastime of Hanumanji which happened here, and also because there is a beautiful ISKCON center which is located in Sikkim now. So these are beautiful features and views of Sikkim during the winter time. This is Kanchenjunga Peak, which you can see very far away in the sky there. And this is the beautiful pastime of Hanumanji. So there is a temple called Hanuman Tok. Now we know the pastime of Hanumanji was told to bring Sanjeevani herbs from which place? From the Himalayas to Lanka. So Hanumanji, he lifted the mountain containing Sanjeevani herbs and he flew all the way from Himalayas. And when he was flying, he took a break here. He jumped from one Himalayan peak to another peak in Sikkim, landed there, took a break, immediately jumped and directly landed in Lanka. So this is Tok. Tok means a peak where Hanumanji came. So there's a beautiful temple to commemorate this beautiful pastime of Hanumanji. And he came here and he sanctified this land of Sikkim. So this is a temple here made in a traditional style of people appreciating here. This is the pastime of Hanumanji. He is jumping, carrying the Sanjeevani herbs on a mountain. And this is the beautiful deity of Hanumanji here. There are very beautiful depictions and paintings of entire Ramalila here on the walls of this temple. So this is something very special about Sikkim. This is a ISKCON temple of Sikkim, very small center, and devotees are preaching and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books here. A beautiful altar here of ISKCON Sikkim. So if someone is going to Sikkim, they can visit ISKCON temple and help them in preaching there as well. So in this way, we can find these beautiful states of Northeast: Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Sikkim, Nagaland have so much in common. The common factor is the presence of Krishna's devotees like Lord Shiva, Parvati, Arjuna, Pandavas, Parshuram. And in this way, there is a lot of heritage of Vaishnavism culture in this part of the world. And therefore, in one sense, indeed, this is a very holy place which is flowing because of the nectar of Brahmaputra flowing through them, plus Lord Krishna's lotus feet have fallen on these lands, and Shiva and Parvati have accepted this land as their own home and stayed here for many generations together. It is said that because Lord Krishna, Lord Shiva and Parvati stayed here, so all the holy places connected to Lord Shiva have a have a duplicate also in this part of the region. It is said in Meghalaya state, which has a capital called Shillong, very close to Shillong, there is one place where is a beautiful statue or deity of Lord Shivalinga. Shivalinga is there, many Shivlingas are there, and inside a cave, and it resembles exactly like Amarnath. So people go there during Shravan Mas and do puja, even though it's inside somewhere deep in valley and jungles. So they go and do puja of Lord Shiva here, because anyone who visits here is considered same as visiting Amarnath in the north in the Kashmir Valley. So these are some beautiful pastimes connected to northeast states, and we hope and pray someday we can get chance to also visit these places and purify our heart. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
RG Media YouTube channel. Like, share, subscribe.